Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Roll with Advantage, and welcome back to D10, the show where I take your suggestions, I put them on a D10 roll table, I roll a dice, and whatever I roll, that determines what I'm going to talk about for this episode. And the key is, I have to do it in 10 minutes or less. Fun fact, by the way, due to changes in the YouTube algorithm, it does not like short videos very much. So if you do like this video, that's probably going to come right under 10 minutes, which is generally that cutoff. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment if you did. I'd love to hear some more ideas for D10. And with that, let's not delay any further and let's see what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, alrighty. So look at this cute little portrait here. Let's see what we're going to roll. A 3. Okay, let's see. What is 3? How to reflavor D&D 5e. Characters, weapons, attacks, etc. Well, shit. So listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I initially rolled this, I was half tempted to redo it, to re-roll and to do something else, because as I started to try and come up with a script, I couldn't think of good enough ideas that would warrant a video, because to me a lot of the things seem straightforward, they seem simple. If you don't like that your character uses a longsword and you want to play as samurai, then just reflavor the longsword to be a katana. To a layman, they're practically the same thing. I mean, they don't need to do different types of damage. It's fine for the purposes of D&D. But then I realized that not everybody thinks that way. So what I wanted to do with this video is, instead of giving you like 15 different ideas of how to reflavor weapons and armor, I wanted to give you kind of a cookbook, so to speak. So what I've done is, for each one of the 5 basic flavors or tastes, which is sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, I have come up with 5 different genres that I think align with those flavors as a sort of, I don't know, device to remember, like, ooh, well, maybe I want to add a little sweetness to this character. Maybe I want to add a little bitterness to this character. If you think about your character like a meal, we want kind of a little bit of variety within them. So I'm going to give you the ultimate distilled version of that flavor, and then it's up to you to determine, okay, how much sweetness do I want in this character? Because most of the time, a balance between these flavors is going to create a delicious meal that we can't help but say yes to. All right, so first up, we have sour, which is going to be sci-fi. Because sourness adds like a sharp, tangy edge to your meals, so sci-fi, I think, does just that. This sort of futuristic, metallic, otherworldly element to a game. So a couple of examples, right? If you're going to reflavor a warlock, you could change the Eldritch Blast to be a laser bolt, and have their patron be some type of cosmic entity, or even maybe, if your DM's cool with it, it could be some type of fantasy equivalent of an AI. There is a collection of constructs that, a Marut, that has separated from the rest of the collective hive mind and is giving your character special powers. That's just a little bit of sci-fi flavor to add to it. There are so many different planes of existence, it would make sense if something kind of slipped into the fantasy world from maybe the Mechanus or from the Astral Sea. Next up, we have sweetness, which is cute or kawaii, right? Using sweetness in this context, it's to bring a sense of charm, innocence, and delight. When something is sweet, oh, it just feels so nice and so right. So we want to add elements of sweetness to our character as well. Now, if we're going to go to the extreme end of the spectrum, this is going to be like your Sailor Moon, right? So with a character concept specifically, this is going to be maybe a warlock that uses Mask of Many Faces. And when they use Mask of Many Faces, they transform into like a magical girl, like Sailor Moon. That is an element of kawaii or cuteness, or we could maybe distill it down a little bit. And we could have a hardened fighter who really likes to paint, right? It's just a little cuteness added to the character to balance out the bitterness. Spoiler, the next one, a little bit of bitterness that they might have. Sweetness is something that can be used to undercut that, to make it not nearly as harsh. Or you can just go all out on the sweetness like other characters have, and, well, they're cute, and that's awesome. And if you ask certain players at my table, every campaign needs a cute, ooh-woo character to really make things as good as they possibly can be. Next up, we have salty, which salty is going to be a militaristic or steampunk flavor to a character. Saltiness, it brings practicality, resistance, or a down-to-earth grittiness, fitting well with like military or steampunk vibes. So a couple of ideas for this. You could have a fighter whose abilities reflect that they have been through war. You know, they have seen the front lines, and that's how they fight. They fight like they are on the front lines, and it is brutal. They take no chances. They give it their all, and there's no floweriness to the way that they fight. You could reflavor cleric spells by, instead of having them be divine magic that they pour out of an amulet, it's almost like advanced first aid kits, where they bring out what are magically enchanted bandages, but those serve as the flavor for the spell. Then we have bitter. Bitter for Grimdark. Bitterness is going to bring a darker, more somber tone to your character. One of my favorite ways that you could do this is you could get a paladin, and they have their lay on hands ability. You could say it still does the healing, but it hurts when it heals. There is this twisted magic that the paladin is pouring into the person they're trying to heal, and it actively hurts, but it still heals the wound. It stops the bleeding, but it's almost like thorns reaching in and pulling out the pain. Something as simple as if you're playing a necromancer and you want to summon undead, instead of just having them be bone white skeletons like Skeletor or something, have them be truly grotesque. They still have bits of sinew and flesh hanging off the bone. The bones are blood-soaked red, or maybe even there's bits of blood and pus that are still falling out of the zombies you just raised this morning. I mean, that's some pretty potent flavor. And then finally, we have umami, which is depth or richness of flavor, that sort of meaty, savory taste. For me, I'm going to relate that to craftsmanship. Now, what I mean by that is a character that focuses on craftsmanship and intricate creations as a part of their character. It's kind of folded into it. So you could reflavor a bard's magic from music to be a chef bard. They make food. There are delicious aromas that they waft out into the air. They use spices as part of their spellcasting components. That sounds like a really fun character to me. You could also use a fighter that is a blacksmith. They create the weapons that they use. They have a deep understanding of weapons and armor. You reflavor their attacks to say, I recognize that this person is wearing chainmail, so I'm going to use the sharpest, most piercing, thinnest weapon I can find to try and break through that chain and pierce that armor. And then finally, we have my favorite, which is a Weaver Sorcerer. So instead of just having blasts of arcane magic out of thin air, like most sorcerers are, choose to have them be somebody that they like sewing. They like crafting clothing and textiles, and have that work its way into the way that they cast their spells. There are threads that weave around them and encircle them. I think a great example of this in media is the way spellcasting works in Wheel of Time. Especially done in the TV show, it gives a beautiful illustration to how that's supposed to work. So that's it. Those are the 5 flavors. The 5 flavors I would recommend to you to add to your characters in moderation. Add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of umami, a little bit of bitterness to your character, and you're going to have something that's really well-rounded and really tasty. Because the thing is not only are you preparing a meal, your character, for the other players at the table, but you're also preparing a meal for yourself. So when you make your character, you need to ask yourself the question, am I okay with eating the same meal for 4 years in a row if the campaign goes that long? So thank you for following along with my convoluted food analogy. I hope that you enjoyed. I know I did. It was a lot of fun to come up with the concept, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you in the creation of your character. But with that, that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.